Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our Icebreakers chat for this evening. I'm Sylvia Dewar. I work for Noneda, the Norwegian network for video game companies. And tonight I am joined by Sebastian and Meeka from Side Tangent Games to talk a little bit about the process of taking a game from a game jam and deciding, you know what, I think I'm going to go further with this game, and then how can we do that, such as applying for funding and making something professional out of something that came from a game jam. Now, this is a topic we wanted to bring up because Global Game Jam happened just recently. So we thought it would be very interesting to talk a little bit more about where we can go from making a game jam and how to make a professional company out of it. So, just to start things off a little bit, I'd love to ask you guys, Sebastian and Mika, tell us a little bit about Side Tangent Games. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company.
Yeah, Side Tangent Games is a game studio that was, I guess, founded like officially in 2021,
Yep.
but we started making games together in 2019, or we met in 2019, and then quickly started making games together. And then 2020 happened. We were making this big, JRPG
Match
match
three.
three
Yeah.
game. Yeah, it didn't work out. Then we said let's make it something smaller, and then we were working on like a quick downwell but up was the whole
Yeah.
theme, and that didn't work out either. And so we were like, okay, we need something, some external uh, like deadlines to push us. And so in 2021, we decided to start jamming together and
Hmm.
try and sign up for. We were trying to make 12 games in 12 months.
12
Oh,
years.
Yeah, ended
oh,
up
oh,
making six, five or six, which is still pretty good. I'm pretty happy
that
with that.
that is very impressive.
Yeah, yeah, it was a hectic time, but yeah, they all did pretty well. And I mean, we kind of already wanted to work together, but that kind of just enforced it and or enhanced it and made us want to go like, okay, we can actually do some good stuff together. So
Yeah. They were good practice for us to start getting in the motions of finishing stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of games to go through together. Um, can I go back a little bit more? Like, so I originally thought maybe you had guys had met through game jamming together, but sounds like you guys met before. How did you guys meet and decide we want to make games together?
I moved to Oslo about 5 years ago, and through that, I made another American friend who I'd met him at some game dev meetups, and we ended up
Mhm.
having the same Norwegian course together. And then he introduced me to Sebastian because they were making games together, and the three of us met over some beers and we hit it off, and that's when we decided to jump in and try to make that first match three RPG style game together, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Okay. That sounds very exciting because I think that that's an aspect of game dev that maybe some people aren't aware of, is that you can, if you go to meetups, which are happening all the time in different cities around Norway and abroad, like in the Nordics in general, all you need is a beer with somebody and who knows what can come from that. Um,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
can I
exactly.
It
ask,
was
so you said
very.
that sorry.
No, I was gonna say it was just uh, my wife is Norwegian. That's why I moved here. But it was exciting to do some research and realize how like active the game dev
Mm.
community is here, and it's smaller too.
Mm.
So it was nice. It felt very attainable. So it was exciting to move to Oslo. I used it as a way to do a change of career to try to jump into game development.
Oh, did you come from a different background?
Yeah, I was a producer for an ed tech company in Boston for 7 years, but I had a
I
creative
see.
background, so I was trying to lean back into that with the game design.
Ah, I see. So you said that was it you decided in 2021 that you wanted to do game jams together?
Yeah, so well, end of 2020, because we started going
Oh,
on
okay.
walks where we would just sort of discuss.
We had already started making a game
Yes,
together,
yeah,
but we were making all the same mistakes that everyone makes when they start
yeah,
overscoping, not
Mm.
having an
yeah,
idea, all that fun stuff. But we were still super passionate about
yeah,
making a game,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it was the game jams became a way to like really practice making games and just like having hard deadlines to meet and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you can't really go, "Oh, let's do one more week."
Yeah,
It's like, "Yeah, we have
Mm.
2 hours focusing building
yeah,
this thing."
yeah.
And it's kinda
Yeah,
nice,
something's
stressful.
got to be cut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, all in all, how many game jams have you guys done together?
Ooh, together, it's 8? No, 7?
7 or 8. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that, yeah. So
Oh, so it's not just Global Game Jam. What kind of game jams can I ask? Were you
yeah.
participating in?
So that's a great question. We started off, it's kind of funny. We started off with a pretty small one. I think it was like 24 participants. And if you want
Mm.
to start doing game development, but you're a little bit like worried you're not going to be able to do it, I would suggest try a small one because it's like it's a tighter community and everybody tries everybody's games and it's like a nicer, it's easier to be seen, right? You're not drowned. But we did, I think it was 24 participants, 12 games, something like that. And we won that one. It's actually really, we're pretty happy with that game.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
one of our better ones because we had a month because we were like, okay,
oh,
we need like a month to do this, but we made a pretty small one, and so it became this thing where we would we got more time to polish it, which was kind of nice. Like it looked really good and it felt really good.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard. I think it's perfectly balanced, but I tend to be better at video games than Mika, so that's the I'm the one who because I'm
Up
the
for debate.
programmer and Mika's the artist.
Up for
So
debate.
uh,
yeah. So but anyways,
But the theme wise, that one it was in just like a regular game jam. The theme was
management.
management. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as like types of jams to join, it just runs the gamut. We
Yeah.
usually just go on itch to see what's coming up and what we think we excites us or what we would suit us best.
Yeah, it
okay.
tends
So
to be.
it wasn't necessarily a game jam in Norway then.
No, well,
No,
I've done a bunch of them
yeah,
beforehand because I mean, I
me
grew
too.
up
Mm.
here and I started in I became active in the video game scene when I was like 19 because I had made a video game in high school that did pretty well for like a game in high school. And so I started hanging out with a bunch of people from the old NITH and that was like a fun thing for me and I would then participate in game jams and I participated in an early version of anime gameplay and all that stuff and yeah like so I tried to keep active in it but I was trying to make bigger games and did also I did also make bigger games on my own but I always wanted to do it with someone else because making games alone is really lonely and it's really hard because
Yeah.
you do everything on your own and there's no one you can turn to and be like, hey, is this good? So,
Yeah.
I guess you can ask your friends, but it's yeah, it's not the same as working together with somebody. So when I met Mika and we kind of have the same humor and a lot of we love the like we tend to like the same movies more than the same games.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, it's funny how you meet people and you're like we turned out to be a good match, but not necessarily because we loved like we both loved Command and Conquer or something like that. It's more like we just vibed really well. And then he was an artist and I was a programmer, and that's like yeah, you gotta yeah. It gave us an opportunity to focus on different strengths, but
Yeah.
still work together really well.
It's good to work with lots of different people too, because I
Yeah.
feel like I had started doing stuff. I had made a game for mobile with a friend back home, and then I was using game jams because everything I ever heard was to help learn to break into the industry is to start doing game jams. It's a good learning experience. So I had done a couple. I had done one in person. I think it was the Global Game Jam when I
Mm.
first moved to Oslo, and then I ended up meeting Seb and
Yeah,
uh,
it's funny. I actually hosted the Global Game Jam twice with Spelmakelaget. I'm actually one of the founding members of
oh
Spelmakelaget
shoot.
Oslo. Yeah, so that's
Are you?
yeah, I am. It's on the
Well,
document.
in English, it's called the Game Developers Guild.
The Game Developers Guild.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thanks for
Mm-mm.
yeah. So yeah, I'm actually on the document. I don't know if anything's happened that much. Well, there was like a one revival meeting of it, and I do think some people are trying to bring back the Öst one, but I am on the original document, so I'll always have that in my book. I can always be proud of that.
Uh, on top of lots and lots of game jams.
Yeah.
Have you two ever hosted a game jam?
This is the first time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were so this
sweet.
January we helped out
Oh
on
yeah.
Global Game Jam in Tromsø
Mm.
with Tweebit and Ismet up there. He invited us up and we were mentors and kind of helping out people to try and do their first game jam or like just get better at it.
Yeah.
We've done a lot, so we know all the traps you can fall into. I think that's how you get better, not by like just like not by practice, but just like learning which traps to avoid because you always
Mm-mm.
overstep. and you need to
Yeah,
like it.
overscope, like you hear it everywhere. Like not just for game jam games, but like for all games. It's always
Yeah,
overscoping is the big problem.
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny. We've gotten really good. I think it's our biggest strength as a team is we're good at cutting. It's like
Yeah, we haven't gotten better at not overscoping, but
no,
we're good at making cuts.
yeah,
That
yeah. We
we
can pare it down afterwards. Yeah, but yeah.
So I'd
So
like to actually move to talk about you two as a team because, you're only two people on the team, right?
technically we're two on the main team, but we are three people. We have a
Okay.
sound guy in Miami, and I mean, he helps us creatively, and he does some programming as well. So he is the third member, and then we have like a fourth ethereal member. His name is the guy who brought us together, Chris.
Uh-huh.
It's funny. I met him at Gamers Get Together, which is an Oslo meetup. And I was wearing a Cubs hat, and he was like, "Oh, I like your hat, but I hate the Cubs." And I was like, "Oh." And then we became friends because he's a White Sox fan. He's from Chicago,
yeah, he
so
called Chicago Chris.
yeah, yeah, he's Chicago Chris. And he's like but he's very busy. He has a kid and stuff, so like he can't really, he doesn't have the same flexibility as me and Mika.
Yeah.
So he
Mm.
comes in and consults and helps us, and it's always good to have like trusted people you can ask, because if we're stuck like on a fight or something, like we can't agree on something, it's always good to have a second or third opinion to come in and be like, hey, like I think this is better, or maybe do this, because it can help you un unblock the roadblock that you hit on. Because we're both pretty stubborn, and so we do end up
Very.
discussing pretty, not like heated, but
Yeah,
to the point.
they get pretty
Yeah,
heated.
yeah, we get annoyed at each other, but we're still friends, so it's never too bad.
Yeah, we actually have never met the other Chris, Chris Sonsonby.
Mm.
He does all our audio and sound design and helps create creativity too. We've never met him in person. He lives in Miami, Florida, and I
Uh-huh.
had met him through working with another crew of game developers in the States on a project remotely, and
Ah,
he's been our ace in the sleeve sound designer.
So good.
Yeah,
So good. It's crazy. He's yeah, it's like magic every time. And he's the exact like the kind of sound designer we like to work with, because like we're doing a lot of stuff, and we try to direct each other and ourselves, but it's like we can just go like, "Hey, this is kind of what it is." And then he comes back and he blows us away every time.
every time.
So,
mhm.
every game you play, you should really listen to that we've made, you should really listen to the music, cuz he does
Yeah.
such a good job.
The sound and music like have so much to do with, I mean, like so much input in how the game is experienced. And I don't think people are quite
Yeah.
aware of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was wondering then, because you said now that you're two to four or three to
Mm.
four members on the
Yeah.
team, and usually in game jams that's a normal size of the crew,
Yeah.
sometimes, right? But you also mentioned that like the first game jam you did, it was only 24 people and about 12 teams. Does that mean that your first game jam together it was just the two of you?
And no, both Chris's were there.
Oh, okay.
Chicago Chris did some concept art for some of the alien enemy characters that were in the game. And then I translated that into in-art pixel graphics.
Yeah.
And Chris Sansa came on
Yeah.
and he did all the sound effects and music
That's
for
how
that too.
that's how he ended up working with us. Because the thing that happened was we were doing a game jam. Me and Mika mainly. That's kind of how it is. And then Chris was like, "Yeah, I wanna be a part of," like Chicago. Chris was like, "Yeah, I want to be a part of it." Um, but he was like, "Yeah, but I don't have that much time." And then we were making a game about. It's a game about warehouse management, like your upper management at a well.
Yeah, it was a good story
Yeah,
actually.
that was the beginning. So it had just come out that Amazon had a bunch of workers where they would have to like pee in
Oh yeah,
bottles and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
like
that.
it was, yeah, real bad
Yeah.
work practices. And we were like, what if we make like a social commentary game? It's a great idea. Let's make a game where like you like whip the employees. It's like a management game.
Ooh,
It's
ooh,
really
ooh,
not
ooh.
a great idea, but we thought it was
No.
kind of like
Yeah,
yeah, it was
we
like
thought it was great for a minute.
yeah, yeah, we're like, yeah, we're really gonna give it to Amazon, right? Two idiots in Norway are really gonna stick it to Amazon. And then Chris, who had worked in warehouse management, went, "I cannot be a part of this. I will get sued if I do that, because I've been in meetings where things got heated." So we changed it to where you're a worker, and so it's not an Amazon warehouse, but it is a undisclosed warehouse in Middle America, and aliens have invaded the Earth, and but your bosses go, well, you still have to move the packages around, and you have to shoot the aliens while you do it. So that's like the gimmick of the game. So we still ended up kicking, a little bit of rocks towards Amazon, but you're not the boss anymore, which is kind of good.
You don't wipe anyone.
Yeah, no, yeah, which is yeah, we learned our lesson. Try to not be, yeah. You can do social commentary, but try to be on the good side, not the bad side.
The game sounds a little bit fun, I gotta tell you. Did you end up finishing the game?
Yeah, yeah, it's on itch. You can play all our
It's
games
on it.
on side.
The jam version, yeah,
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 yeah, on side tangent dot itch dot side tangent games dot itch dot io.
yeah,
And yeah, most of our games are. I think all of our games are there.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like a Doom-like, pretty like quick-paced shooter where you deliver packages. But I think it's a pretty fun one.
So if I can ask, this is not the game we're going to talk about a little bit later, right? The game you decided to go forward with to is it a different game or
No,
No,
is it the same game? Oh,
no.
okay, it's a
different
different
one.
game. Okay, so I'm looking forward to hearing about the game you did decide to go forward with. But
Yeah,
before
yeah,
that, can I? We were talking, or I really want to talk about your team because what's really unique about your team, and I think that many new companies at least experience this is it's a relatively small team, right? Three people, potentially four. So
yep,
that means that there's some parts that or you have to be like, or as the Norwegians say, a potato, right? You have to
yeah.
be many different roles in one. Um, and how do you deal with that? Because like who's in charge? Who's doing the management? Who's doing the well? I mean, you've got the art and the and animation, and but like it takes a lot to do each one of those roles. So how do you guys handle that?
I mean, no sleep, pretty much.
Ah,
No,
ah,
but it's
It's been a struggle.
joking
We're
aside.
still figuring it out.
Yeah,
I think coming up now, this in March will be the first time that we'll actually have more time to work on the game. This is
yeah,
one of the reasons why we're sprinting towards pushing out one of our jam games.
yeah,
mhm.
But as far as like wearing all the hats, it's been a learning process for us where we've had to fail a bunch of times and realize that like okay, we need to plan better. We need to going forward to actually release a game because we've tried a couple times to take original ideas and put them out as a full release. And we always end up hitting a wall, they're all good learning experiences. But yeah, as far as like who's making decisions, I think our process now is planning and making decisions there. Seb will make calls on the programming side,
yeah,
but we'll talk everything through. We'll talk through the art. We'll talk through the sounds
yeah.
and creativity, and just try to get a, what the actual scope of the project will be. But I don't know as far as roles. It really is Sebastian's programming,
Yeah.
art, Chris's music and sound.
Yeah. It
I
yeah.
think we both kind of wear producer hats.
I mean, we both
Mm.
worked as producers, like, or project
Yeah,
managers. Like, I mean, my education is design and programming, but I've ended up, and I like working in small companies. So I end up doing a lot of project management, and like, so we both have knowledge of it, and through jams, like, it's one of the things that jams have really
yeah,
helped us with, is like learning the process of being okay with, like, it's like it's the kill your darlings thing, kill your babies, all that stuff, where it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
and it's to the point where it's like you're like, yeah, 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 I've heard it before, but it's like it's really true, and we gotten really good at it, where I think we do, where it's like we'll have a pretty heated discussion for an hour, or like 30 minutes, and we're like, we cannot decide on this, and we'll go away for an hour, we'll come back, and been able to cool down a bit, we've been able to work on,
and Seb usually comes back and says, "Mika, you know what?
not
You're right."
that
It's
is
like,
not that is not correct, but it's about 50-50. This is how it goes. Yeah. No, but we tend to be pretty good to know, because we have the whole game in focus, right? And that's kind of I think we realize that both of us want to make a really good game,
Mm.
and we're willing to sort of compromise.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really exciting to hear about. And I also I don't envy you because it feels like there are a lot of hats to play, and it's hard. I would imagine that it's very hard to focus sometimes when there's so many different aspects you have to be aware of with the game.
Yeah, super hard to focus. We both have day jobs as well,
Yeah.
so it's been everything's kind of you show up after work and you've been working all day. You're a little tired. You're a little bit more
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
even too as we've been going forward too, like we just went through a process where we submitted an application for funding for
Mm.
the game that we want to go forward with. Like, then there's a whole other side that too that we haven't wrapped our head around completely. It was the business side and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff too. So,
Setting up
but
budgets, all
for
that stuff.
me, I think it's super fun. I think it's one of the reasons why I want to be an indie game
Yeah.
developer
Yeah.
too. I think it's really fun to be able to wear all those hats, see all these different challenges that
Mm.
you're trying to solve.
I mean, yeah, I work in a slider. Like my day job is a game programmer, game maker at a company called Luda. Um,
Ah, oh wait, Luda. Oh, you're a member of Nonita, my company.
yes, you are 100% correct, and I know
Yes.
Nonita really well.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah, we're with the organization, so yeah. No, yeah. So it's funny. Yeah, we do a lot of like learning based games and stuff. Like a lot of like training games. We worked. We used to be like a youth teaching thing where we would teach kids that had fallen out of school how to make video games and try and sort of give them confidence and realize that they're worth something and they can bring something to the table. But then we had to shift due to a million reasons. And Nav as a I'm not gonna bad 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 mouth Nav, but Nav has its working under Nav has its challenges. But yeah, so we've been doing a lot of stuff in that space, and it's really like it feels good, and you feel like you're doing stuff, and it's good to be able to sort of exercise those muscles of like programming and making games because it's all I kind of want to do is like make games.
Yeah.
But it is tiring when you've programmed an entire day and solved a bunch of problems, and your head is like buzzing, and then you're like, okay, time to do it again. Time to run out of the door and get to do more programming. So,
So where do you find the motivation for that?
I don't know. I think I mean, I don't know. It's like any programmer will just be we're slightly masochistic. We're like, yeah, I love being in pain. I love my head hurting because I can't solve this stupid vector thing.
I think if for me, and I'm assuming for Seb too, it's just a passion too. It's like
Yeah,
a love for it. There's nothing
yeah,
more exciting than like getting out of bed and then jumping into like what you were working on the night before.
yeah,
I don't know. I find that super exciting. That's when I know I'm like on the right path,
yeah.
or like finishing work and like thinking about jumping back into doing an animation or implementing
Mm.
something. I think that's super fun.
Mm.
It's also that thing where like we're fully against crunch and don't want any crunch, but it's that thing where like it feels that something's I don't want to romanticize crunch in any way, but like especially a jam, right? It tends to end up if you really want to do a lot, you end up working a long time. But it's that thing where like even at 4 a.m. you're like, this is so fun. This
Yeah,
is so great.
yeah,
Like you have a real passion for it,
yeah.
which again, it's not good for anybody. You shouldn't crunch, but
Balance is key, but
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
but
because you can easily burn out as well. So it's good to be able to come back to something and be like, hey, this is pretty good. We
Uh,
also tend to hate our games when we finish them. It's really funny. Take
yeah,
about a day or two before we come back.
yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is pretty good.
At the end of every day, I'm usually extremely tired and
Yeah.
emotional, and then after I take a nap, I'm like, oh, okay, that was actually pretty good.
oh, I do not envy you. So you have like day jobs and then going on to it. I mean, like I know it's a passion project, and I know that a lot of companies in Norway, and I'm assuming that this is relevant abroad too. They also have that, or a lot of people do that because they might be a small company, they might not have the funding in place to be able to do it as a full-time job.
Mm.
So hearing a little bit about your experiences and your inspirations, it's good because I think that some people struggle with that, with finding that inspiration to keep going, especially when it's a small team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I think find the thing that gives you joy, right? Like again, like too many people make too big games. It's the like I was a student for 4 years and I would make games on the side. That was the compromise my parents made with me. It's like I want to do game development. They were like, you should probably do programming or design. Like that's a better way. And I was like, yeah, but I really want to make video games. They were like, but just make them on the side. And I was like, it's a great idea. And so I mean, I stayed with my parents when I was for most of my studies. Um, and that was like a great opportunity for me to just be in a basement and hack away at huge games. But it is really draining. And when you're, halfway through a 2-year project, there's no motivation driving you. It is just a compassion or you just feel you have to do it, right? It has to become a routine. It's like exercise. You just have to kind
Yeah,
of
definitely.
make it your routine and finding. I think for a lot of people, focusing on smaller things, not focusing on making money in the beginning. Like
Mm.
we there was like a reignited passion when we started doing because the Playdate, there's like a console called the Playdate,
Hmm.
and I downloaded that the SDK. I don't have the console, but I was just playing around with it, and it's been such like a fun thing where it's like I didn't have to think about like, oh, is this gonna be big enough to make money? Like what's the like if it works, everything's broken, right? It's like that thing where you should really try and approach game development, especially on a hobby basis, as like a
Yeah.
as a hobby. I mean, it should give you joy. You shouldn't
Hmm.
be feeling pain every time you open Unity or whatever. Like that's not a good, it's not a good sign. So,
Yeah, I think we both have such a passion. We both also have other little side game projects that we
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
noodle away on.
too much.
Yeah, I need other hobbies.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good too.
yeah.
Uh, but then this is actually a really good segue into going into how did you guys decide this game? You made this is what we want to go for. We're gonna put a lot of effort into continuing this game and making it a better game.
It's kind of funny.
What made you finally decide?
I think well we had tried to work on so again we've started probably
Four,
4
four,
5
four, maybe five. Yeah.
yeah, full games like games. We did one that was the RPG one. We did one called Blast Hole, which was about a super. We tend to put super buff men in our games. I don't know if it's because I mean I tend to be the one pushing for it. I'm a kid of the '90s, Meeka's from the '80s. But it's like that thing where I don't know why. I think I watched a lot of '80s movies and it really affected me. And I'm like, yeah, it's a joke we do where it's like we make the gayest straight games in the world. There's nothing like that. They're always like super buff men. They're all like oily and stuff, and we're like, yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, we're really children of the '80s, like cultural boom with Schwarzenegger and Stallone and stuff. But yeah, no. So Blastal was like a parody. The idea was it was a Swedish movie studio that tried to make a movie in
Yeah,
the
that was the
'80s.
lore of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the only thing that got made was the video game version of it, but it was like a guy blasting his way out of like a alien, like a Samus.
It's like Contra Met Asteroid
Yeah, yeah,
style
yeah,
game. Yeah.
Metroid kind of ish. It looked really good, and it was like an old idea I had. The base gameplay, not the not the stuff around it. And then we tried to make.
The game called they were entitled Roundhouse,
Yeah, that's probably the last
which
one.
was
Yeah,
like Overcooked or Diner Dash
needs to be.
restaurant
Yeah,
management meets a beat 'em up like Streets of
yeah,
Rage. That was also inspired by an '80s movie called Roadhouse.
yeah,
So in that game, you'd be a character like serving in a bar, throwing out drunk people,
yeah.
beating up.
It was about growing your mullet and getting a nicer bar. It was pretty
Uh,
much like the whole idea of the game. And again, he was super buff and would kick people in the face. So it's the kind of like games we like to make.
But again, it was another project too, where as we're learning as we go, and have you mentioned we are only a 2 to 3 person team,
Yeah.
so and who works part time on this stuff. So again, it was too overscoped, and we kind of knew going into it, but we were excited about it, and we decided to hang that one up for a little bit until
Yep.
we can grow a little bit.
Yeah, we ended up with a pretty decent prototype.
Yeah,
Like it's not perfect, but it shows what the game is sort of capable. I will shout out there is a Norwegian game dev, Arif, who just really released a demo, I think, about a game that's pretty similar,
okay,
but without the kicking and stuff, which
okay,
is kind of the most fun part of our game, was the kicking. But it's called Another Bar Game, I
okay,
think. Yeah,
cool.
shout out to him. But yeah, and then yeah, we tried to make a tiny one, which was a um baseball game where you would again aliens where you would sort of smash aliens out of the sky with baseball. That was an attempt to work in Godot, but I think I'm too stuck on C sharp, so we're back to Unity now after many months of Godot hardship. But to actually answer your question,
Yeah, yeah.
so we had participated in. It's kind of funny. We participated in um,
The NNM,
NM gameplay
yeah,
in 2021. No, 2022. April 2022.
last year,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was the game the game jam we made that did the worst. All of our game jams have done really well. They're like top 1% pretty much.
It
At
didn't
least top 2%.
It didn't make it into like the finals of the thing,
No.
but it's the only one that we've already got good feedback online through
Mm.
Itch. This is the first one we actually got to watch people play in person.
Yeah.
And it was
Oh.
really cool to watch the feedback, and people were really enjoying the game. So it was like one of those things where I felt like we won the crowd, and it
Yeah.
felt like we had something there.
Mhm.
Maybe the judges didn't see the same thing, but the crowd was the people that play the game really loved it. You could see the enjoyment. They were interactive with it.
Yeah, I would say
Um,
it's our Rocky, where like we were like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We also hijacked
that's
the
a great.
it was we also hijacked the award ceremony because the whole idea was it's a WarioWare like.
Yeah, the theme of that jam was deja vu.
Yeah,
In the theme of that game, it's a WarioWare like
yeah,
called Deja Video, where you're in an old video store and there's this guy in West New Jersey
yeah.
named Vinny, and he's running a video game tournament. And you go into the shop and you're playing all these micro games,
Mm.
retro themed console games, really fast,
Uh-huh.
really fun.
Yeah, but they're all like shitty copies of famous, like
Like knockoffs.
yeah,
Yeah.
knockoffs
Oh.
of it. So it's like we did Deadly Combat, which was Mortal Kombat, and it's me. It's just me rotoscoped. It's yeah, I
Yeah,
don't look
it
like
was
any of the
really
actors.
fun to
Yeah, it was
we
super
did
fun to
retro.
work on, and we got to do a lot of different stuff with it, and a bunch of voice acting. Like I do a lot of the voice acting for our games, and so we were able to really like express ourselves in a different way, and the like most of the framework for that was built in that jam, and is kind of ready to plug in. It's the advantage of being a professional programmer is you tend to write pretty good
In production wise
code.
too, like if we break it down into business and time and going into production, the way that it's set up as mini games, we can kind
Mm,
of build in compartments. So
very scalable.
yeah, so
Mm.
it's scalable, it's small, so we can build in sections as we go, and we can keep our day jobs,
Yeah,
and hopefully it's a huge, and then we
yeah,
can quit our day jobs and do
exactly.
this
Yeah.
full time. So
No, but it's like if Chris is watching, he's lying. I'm not gonna quit on no, just
yeah.
joke. Chris is another. I know so many Chris's, but there's another Chris that I work for. So, but no, but the it's also our most flashy game, right? It has a lot of it's kind of like an Adult Swim cartoon and all it's and its tone and humor and like with the voice acting and stuff like that, and that's kind of the idea is to try and make something more TV like, I guess, or episodic than games tend to be. So it's a unique take on a WarioWare, pretty much. But it is like in fear of Nintendo, ripping into us. But it is highly inspired by all aspects of WarioWare.
Mm.
To be very political.
So as I understood it, this was actually of all the Game Jam games that you have made together, this was one of the lower ranked ones. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean,
correct?
there really wasn't any
So,
rating system,
Yeah.
meaning more. It didn't. They were in the NNM Oslo Game Jam. Three games were put into the finals
uh-huh.
for everyone to vote on. We
Yeah.
didn't make that round,
Yeah.
but we still
Okay.
were. Seb's still upset over it, but
Eh,
uh,
well,
but
I just
we
put a lot of work in. I was so
but
tired.
but again, we've done some testing in person with our other games,
Mm,
and you could tell that people like you weren't getting the feedback you want. We
mm.
really struggled to find the fun in those games, but with this one, watching the user testing in person, and you could see like, okay, we think we have something here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there was one kid who didn't want to leave the thing, and his parents were like, "You, we have to go. Our
uh,
lunch reservations." And he was like, I want to go one more time because I got to beat my brother." And it was like that. That's kind of the things you want to see, right? Where you're like, "Okay, there's something here.
Mm.
There's something that really has some potential." And every time I show the games, all the games we made to people, there's two games they like. It's our West Side Story. Um, it's our West Side Story. Parody game where we wrote a full musical number and you like collect goons and
Oh.
you're dancing around. It's called Cool Cats of Dance City. That one tends to get really good feedback, and then Deja Video when we show it tends to get really good feedback. Deja Video is not available yet on the website on itch, unfortunately.
yeah, we're working on it right
Yeah,
now.
but we'll see what happens. It's we're still discussing sort of how we're going to launch it and stuff, but we did apply to NFI for some money
Uh-huh.
for it. Uh, have not got well. We got an tentative no, but we're still working on it. And
Mm.
uh, luckily, unluckily, I'm sort of out of a job right now, So
Oh,
I'm still working for the company, but I'm permitted, and then
uh-huh.
so I have some
Hmm.
time to work on Deja Video. So we for
That's
the
the
first
first
time
time.
ever, we
Yeah,
have
first time we have a
full
full.
time programmer on
Yeah,
a project. So it
yeah.
will give us some time to work on that. Because I mean I still like to work. It's just yeah, I guess to work on that then. So I'm sort of treating it that way.
So I mean, as I understood it, the feedback is kind of what inspired you to go for this game in particular.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
and
so.
and also
Yeah.
like
We
look,
had so much fun making it. Like
yeah,
it's
looking at what we like want to make and all the stuff we can do with it, it's just
it's us. Like
yes, yeah,
I feel like we it's our sense of
yeah,
humor. It's our art
yeah.
style. It's all of that encompassed into one. And we've had a lot of fun working on it. So I think that the feedback and that's really been the push for that one.
Yeah, definitely. It's been such a I mean just seeing the joy in people's faces when they played it as well and just like hearing people laugh at the jokes and the like all this stuff it's just and it's yeah, it's just a thing where it gives me so much joy being able to think like what game are we going to parody next? Like and how do we do it? And like and all the characters we came up with they're all like kooky weird characters, you know, inspired by South Park and yeah, a bunch of Adult Swim shows and stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, yeah,
Well, that was
we
actually. Oh, sorry.
no, no, yeah. We just yeah, it's something we can really like put our love into. So
Hmm.
That was actually something I wanted to ask you about. My next question was going to be to tell me a little bit about your game, the one that you're working on right now, the one that went from a game jam game, and now as your company game.
yeah, that's I mean that's Deja Video, and it's so it started the Game Jam game is for mini games that you play in loop,
Hmm.
and then Vinny, who's the owner of the store, Vinny's Video Emporium, I think it's the name of the store. Like I play him as like a Italian American New Jersey
Yeah, Vinny
dude.
looks like Sebastian in 30 years. It's
Yeah,
pretty
I
weird.
don't love that he does, but it's not wrong. It's not wrong, but yeah. But yeah. So we didn't have much. Like he was just like your uncle, kind of a weird uncle dude who owns this video store, and yeah, he's just like typical. Sort of, he's trying to create some sort of nostalgia in people who'd never experienced it. Like I didn't grow up in New York in the '90s, right? I grew up in Oslo, in Badum, to be honest, in the '90s, right? So it's I've never had that like video game tournament at a video store, but I felt it captured something that wasn't there, and then or nobody had done yet, and then we kind of expanded it. It's been expanded to have like 8 characters, you know, more games, side stuff like some secrets here and there. You know, it also allows us to do other stuff if we want to and if we have time, which is really good. Like it's always good to have these things where it's like this would be really nice to do if we had time. um, but it's a thing where like you know we can add music videos like Beavis and Butthead style, or we can do you know our own little movies we're joking about. Because one of the jokes is that Vinny was in Vietnam and he went to Thailand and that's where he found his like distributor. So all his games are like Thailand produced, but they're all ripoffs of like famous games. So all of the stories like filled it with it, and we were like, what if we hire Thai voice actors to do recreations of like Titanic and stuff like that, like in movie form. You can see like small movie trailers, stuff like that. So it just gives us this opportunity to do a lot of like stupid jokes and funny things, and you know we don't know how much we're gonna be able to do, but that would be super fun to be able to really expand
Yeah,
on that. And
core
Yeah.
gameplay first, and then
yes, yeah,
if we
absolutely, yeah.
can
A lot of nice to
expand.
haves on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually going to ask about scope since we were talking about scope being a problem before with all these
Yeah,
exciting
yeah,
things. Yeah.
I think we have our core set, and we're still very much in the creative phase where there's no bad ideas.
yeah.
So we're
Mm.
just writing them down and putting them out there. And as we build the first like actual vertical slice prototype, uh, then we can add on to that and see what kind of how long in production we want to do on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to find publishers for it, and
Mm.
getting a good vertical slice is going to be pretty critical. But we're
Yeah.
we're hoping to have about 3 characters by October. That's the original plan. We'll see how far we get. That's
Mm.
also going to help us understand how far or how long it takes to make, you know, 10, 20 mini games per character. Because I mean, it does take time. It's not, you know, it's not trivial. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, it's an explorative. Um, time for us, and it's pre-production. So, but we have four already that are pretty good and need some tweaking, but tend to be pretty good. And then we'll just kind of keep on working on it until we can sort of go here's three characters and hopefully 30 or 60 games. And does anybody want to give us some money for so we can make this? I mean, we're two to three people, so the budget isn't. It's a very tiny budget compared
Mm.
to many other games, and but we budgeted realistically. We went to Console. Somebody here might have
Hey,
heard of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
represent.
Sylvia's one conference. And there was a really interesting and a really good talk on publishing that I really
Mm,
liked. Uh, and that they were like, be honest and give an actual estimate of how much money you need, right? It's easy to lowball and be like, we need, this is $100,000, right? Which is tiny, absolutely tiny. Um, but we've been able to sort of go like, yeah, this is what we would need with 2 years of development and on a decent, a fair salary for for a video game developer in Norway. So it's all those lessons, learning all those lessons, going to be
Yeah, there's so many lessons
yeah.
we
yeah, can
learning
I
through
ask
Yeah.
you about those? Like your experiences going, I mean, because you're going from a game jam game that you do in your free time to trying to establish a company and make a big game out of this that you want to be a commercial success. How has that experience been?
I think step one for us, we've kind of pushed away the commercial success.
Ah,
Started
okay.
kind of in the back. It's like maybe step two for us, but I think right now our first goal is to get a game out the door.
Yep.
I feel like that's as we go through the application funding and rounds, it's more you need to show that you are capable of completing a
Yep.
project.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we've been working on for the last like year or two, like just trying to figure out what's our first game, what are we gonna get out there.
Yeah.
So we're working on that right now and learning as we go for the publishing side. Going to console was a great learning
Yep.
experience.
Yep.
Talking to publishers, I feel like it's a long road, and I just feel like we're heading in the right direction. We're gonna make some wrong turns here and there, but
Yep. I mean, yeah, I've been lucky enough to work in a small video game company already, right? Chris, who I know is watching now, he did tell me. So, hi, Chris.
hey, Chris.
Uh, he he's been like it's like almost like a mentor because he teaches me a lot of the stuff I didn't know, right? That he didn't know when he got in. So it's been a really nice thing for me to be able to, to get to know those guys really well and sort of how like all the things you don't think about, like let's take salary for instance. I didn't know this until I started working in a small company. Like you got to add a lot of money to your monthly, like to your yearly salary, because you got to pay the state, and it's like that's not the taxes, that's like the company. So you have to factor that in, right? It's easy to go, oh, we're getting 500 each like a year, so we'll need 100,000 or a million kroners. But then it's like, no, you got to pay 200,000, 300,000 in fees to the state to pay a
Mm,
person a million, right? And then it's
mm.
healthcare and all that, which is all stuff I really like. It's good. It's really good that we have this here, but still, it's that thing where that's like,
Oh,
oh, okay, so salaries are way more expensive than you think, right?
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I'm dealing with it too as a general manager, and I
yeah,
kind of got thrown into that where I was like, "Oh, I got the position." I'm like, "Yeah, that's great." Oh, oh, what kind of taxes did I miss? I was paying that one tax, but there were two others that I forgot to pay. Uh-oh. I was like, "Wow, learning curve."
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, budgets and setting up a bank account even is something you gotta do at some point, right? And
yeah.
it's a lot of lessons, but really like being in with my feet not touching the bottom of the ocean. Something about it. I like being a little bit on my toes, so it's been a really good learning experience. And then we have people who've done it before that we can always ask, so that's very it's always nice.
Mm. Okay, so I'd like to actually ask you the last question. Tell me,
I think we
why do you love game jams?
yeah, the last question was why do we love game jams?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Um,
I think it's super for me. I think it's super fun. It encompasses all the aspects of game design in a very tight time frame, and then you get to see something from start to finish, in with 2 day time, a week's time, a month's time. So it's super exciting. You get to be creative. You get to meet new people. For me, that's I think that's been super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me as well. It's that thing where I mean, I think I'm more competitive than I like to think I am. I'm like, nah, I don't care if I win, and then I participate in game jam. I'm like, I'm gonna crush all of you. I'm gonna be the best. Go full wrestler mode, but it's I think it's partly that, but also it's I think it's for me um it's just a really fun like we do games because we love I mean, I make video games because I love making video games. Like
Same.
the amount I play has gone down drastically. When I was a teenager, it was all I did was play video games. Now I barely play any of them because I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to put time into programming instead. And so it's just like a super like yeah, it's nice to have that whole thing in a short amount of time, instead of it being a 2 year long slow release. It's like eating a candy bar compared to a full meal.
It's good to try new stuff too. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I've used jams as a way to like change up the art style
yeah.
or like
Experiment. Yeah,
different animation. Like the when we played around a little bit with the play date,
yeah,
doing black and
yeah,
white, and it's really cool.
yeah. Low
It's a
stakes and
safe, yeah, low
yeah,
stakes, safe place to experiment and try wild and crazy stuff.
yeah,
Mm. And I think I think you mentioned right at the beginning of our talk is that it's a really good place for people who want to get into the games industry to
yeah,
just give it a try, right? You meet lots of
yeah,
people that you might end up collaborating with or even working with in the future, and and you get to just have a little taste without a lot of pressure on you to perform, right? Because
yeah.
everybody's
Exactly. Yeah,
understanding and everybody's there to help. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, if everything goes to goes in the toilet, like you're still. I mean, you still only depending on how long the jam is, but let's say it's a week jam. You spent 3 days and you realized, maybe this one wasn't for me, or yeah, it's also I would
Mm.
recommend any small like team that is working together to do it, because it really reveals some stuff. Because it can get pretty intense, right? So it's like you learn how you solve problems together, and you get better at solving problems together. I really think that's again one of the biggest takeaways for us. Is like we've gotten really good at being like, okay, let's get away from the because in the during Corona we work remote, so it's like let's get off the call and then we'll get on again and we can actually have like we've cooled down, so it teaches you about the people you work with, which is like building. They always I've heard this is like building a team is way harder than building a game, and I kind of subscribe to that. I think that's
Yeah,
like good people
we've
make
both
a
worked with multiple teams and stuff,
yeah,
and I feel like so far this has been we've clicked as a team.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I've been watching that Double Fine documentary as well, and it's really
Mm.
interesting to see them because a lot of the problems like show up. You're like, okay, this could have been. They do a yearly game jam, I think, and it's like, yeah, this could have been discovered earlier if they had done this
Yeah,
earlier. It's very interesting to see, like even they make the same mistakes that we you can do.
I think
Um,
everybody does.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of it's why it's hard to make video games.
it is.
A lot of emotions.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So, we are organizing a game jam together with IGDA Sweden, Side Tangent Games, and Icebreakers. And we are going to be announcing the topic for the game jam. And I hope those of you that are listening and watching, I hope you will take some time to participate in it. Information or link, there will be links on the information about the game jam in the chat here in the stream, but we'll also be announcing the game topic. So I was actually wondering, do you want to announce the game topic? Should I? Who who'd like to do this?
I mean, I think you could do it, Sylvia. I think that'd be nice. Or we could say it together. It's harder on
Oh,
web.
that's definitely hard because I think my internet is lagging, so that would be very funny. It would be like echoes. But yeah, so the topic for the game jam that we are organizing is put your love into it.
Yeah,
So, unlike other game jams, we want you to grab a game that you've already worked on previously, just like Side Tangent Games has worked on, and put your love into it. So maybe it needs a fresh coat of paint, or maybe it needs some new art, or maybe it needs you need to polish some of the movements, or maybe you just need to explore it a little bit more. So if your previous game was published on itch, you can either submit your game with to this jam with details of your updates in the devlog. So, or you're also welcome to create a new submission and attach a link to the previous version of the game. If the previous iteration was not published on itch, send us a link to where we could see it and even just the Git repo for it. And we can't wait to see what you've done with your previous game jams and how they're going to turn out now. So that is a little bit of information about the game jam that we are hosting and the topic that we chose. So just to repeat it, the topic of the game jam is put your love into it.
Yeah.
So does anybody maybe have any questions in the chat that we can answer? Oh, we actually just got a first question. So if they've never done a game jam game before, can they participate? Do you guys want to answer, Sebastian and Mika?
I think yes. Yeah, you can still put your love into a game you haven't made yet,
Yeah.
or just an idea you had. Let's say you go like, I want to make Pong, but with curved paddles, which I
Yeah.
tried
Yeah.
to make once.
How'd
You
it
can
go?
still do that. You don't. That doesn't have to be an old game jam project. It's just picking, like, ideally yes, but picking up something you've worked on before, and trying to do something with it, or an idea you've had. I mean, the more the merrier, right? But ideally, it's a game jam game. But yeah. Like
Yep.
we'll probably we won't necessarily submit, but we will probably polish a bit on a game jam game we worked on called
Yeah. Willie and Rosie.
Willie and Rosie,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the main things were like it was too hard and some of the movement would be nice to change. And in honor of the jam, we'll probably do some stuff on that without necessarily publishing. We don't want to compete with other people, but or like participate. Again, everything's a competition to me, so.
That's fair.
Yeah, but yeah, it's okay to submit even though it's not a game jam game. I feel like at least, and I think that's
I agree.
yeah.
So just so that everybody is aware, they're in the chat, the stream chat. We have already linked information about the game jam there. If you are looking for a little bit more information about our game jam, please check it out there. It's called Pump Up the Jam. It's on itch.io, and I hope that you will join us for it. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be yeah wonderful.
hmm. So if there are no more questions from anybody watching, I think we might round it up. But just wait a few more minutes to see if we get any more questions from our viewers.
Yeah,
Um,
good. It's funny. I the first time I met you, Sylvia. I know that I mean you talk to a lot of people, so it's not always easy to remember people. But I remember the first time meeting you because it was and through Double Fine, like all kinds of coincidences. But it was the 2020. It was the Lee Petty workshop at Console that year.
oh,
Yeah,
because that
and
was a
I ended up
digital workshop.
yes, so I could participate from Oslo. So that's the first time I met you, and
Oh,
remember it.
I'm so sorry.
No, no worries,
Just like,
no worries.
oh,
There were a lot of people in that thing, so.
hmm, yeah. Oh, did you enjoy the workshop?
Oh, it was wonderful. Lee Petty's a really good speaker. I was kind of sad he didn't come last year. I mean, I'm not
Uh,
gonna point any fingers or put any blame. You don't have to explain anything. But I was
uh,
like, yeah, I was kind of hoping he would show up, but it is what it is. It was still a good amount of people.
he is a fabulous speaker and a
Mm.
fabulous person. So
Yeah, I've only heard good things.
he's a dear person to or dear part of Console. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, so I there haven't been any other questions in the chat, so I think we're going to round off the stream now. So I wanted to thank you so much for joining us in this conversation and so much for organizing the stream with us.
yeah. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the results end up being, what kind of games we're going to get. Um,
Yeah, super
oh,
exciting. I mean, yeah. Well,
oh, we got a question or we got a comment in the chat, which is great, which is somebody wanted to learn Unity faster, so they're taking part in this jam as a process, and that's a really, really great
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
yeah. You'll
to get that
face
experience.
yeah, you'll
Yeah.
face challenges you didn't think to research beforehand. Like I got pretty good at
Mm-hmm.
pathfinding because we were making that dance game and like people your gang like joins around you. I mean, it's gangs, it's dudes like doing the flips. Again, it's a parody of West Side Story, so they're not really that scary. But they're yeah. So it's like I learned how to do a lot of pathfinding. No, I learned it in
Mandatory overtime.
mandatory overtime. Yeah, because the enemies had to find you. So I got really good at pathfinding. So it's a great way to discover tools you didn't know you could use. And I think I've used it in every single game
Mm.
we've done after. It's a good excuse to
Ah,
join
that's
you.
great. It's wonderful that we have people watching that will be using this opportunity in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I wanted to thank you again for joining us. Thank you for organizing this game jam with us. I also wanted to give a thank you to our producer who's in the back that maybe the audience hasn't heard yet. But Vivian, thank you so much for all your hard work with this, both for the stream and the game jam. And I want to thank everybody for watching us and watching the stream. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and join us for our game jam. So
Yep.
that is it for me. I would love to say thank you and good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you and good night. Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
luck to everybody who's participating in the jam. Thank you to Vivian for setting this up. And yeah, good
Cheers.
luck.